but we are right now in the thick of things. NFL training camps underway and in full motion. We've got Matt Verderame, NFL director, fansided.com. Matt, you're with us here on Big Board Sports. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So, Matt, the Giants, I've thought they've needed help at defensive back all along here. They signed Janoris Jenkins, and they're thinking about Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie in the slot. They've got Eli Apple, but really that fourth defensive back to help stop these spread offenses. They go out and sign Leon Hall today, who played with the Bengals. Do you think this has is this any kind of impact move for the Giants, or just depth only?
You know, I think they're looking at it as depth. I think they're looking at it as insurance. I think Leon Hall, he's been a very good player in the league for a while. You know, he's a veteran, but at the same point, he's the kind of guy that if somebody gets hurt, if something doesn't go right, if Janoris Jenkins gets hurt, or if Eli Apple, for whatever reason, either he's not up to snuff right away or he gets hurt, I think Leon Hall is the kind of guy you can bring him in and he's not going to kill you. And so I think it's a good move for the Giants. It's a low-cost, low-risk signing.
The Ryan Fitzpatrick saga finally comes to an end for the Jets, and I thought that we were done with quarterback drama for the, until the season started at least. But now we're seeing this thing. The Cowboys are in desperate need of a backup, right? Kellen Moore injured. We know they need a Romo insurance policy. Zach and I were just kicking around. Maybe Michael Vick is the best option on the table when you look at the free agent class. Maybe now they're thinking about trading for Josh McCown in Cleveland. What do you think the Cowboys should do to solidify that backup position? Or should they let Dak Prescott take a chance at it?
I don't think you can go with Prescott. He's a project. They took him in the fourth round for a reason. I think he's a couple of years away from being football ready as far as the NFL is concerned. But I think McCown's a real option. They should kick the tires there. I think Cleveland would do something. Cleveland's obviously a team that's not expecting to compete this year. I think they'd sell him off maybe for a late round pick. I think Vic, the problem with him is he's so injury prone that you're just taking the risk that you sign him and 2 weeks later he hurts himself and he's out for, a month. So if you're the Cowboys, you got to get somebody who's quality because Romo is obviously an injury risk coming off 2 broken clavicles last year. Dallas has designs on making one last push here, with Romo and Witten as these guys get up in their late 30s. And so they need to find somebody who's a legit backup. One thing to watch also, the Chiefs signing Nick Foles last night. They have a major glut at the quarterback position. Tyler Bray and Aaron Murray are 2 guys. Aren't big names, but Andy Reid's been known to develop quarterbacks, and so the Chiefs, I'm sure, would move one of them for a 7th-round pick if Jerry Jones would be interested.
Matt, I got to ask you about a local team of interest, and we have a ton of rabid Buffalo Bills fans in upstate New York. Got to ask you about these Bills. They've been so close, knocking on the door. I believe it was 9-7 2 years ago. Last year was 8-8. They're inching closer and closer to getting over the hump. They have legitimate weapons offensively. You'd think their defense this year has to be better than it was a season ago. They picked up some personnel in the draft as well. Is this the year that the NFL's longest playoff drought, the Buffalo Bills, comes to an end?
Unfortunately, I don't think so. Listen, I think the Bills are a very talented team. It's not an indictment of their talent. Tyrod Taylor, he's a good young quarterback. He's probably going to get an extension before the year starts. LaShawn McCoy, he's got to be better than he was last year. 895 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground aren't going to cut it. I agree the defense, I think, will be better. I don't think it's going to be worse. They were 19th last year in the league. And I love their draft. I think Reggie Ragland's a stud. The problem really is just the division. The Jets with Fitzpatrick are very good. The Patriots, Brady's out the first 4 games, but that team's going to be there. They always are. And the rest of the AFC is good. You have 3 teams in the AFC West could all make the playoffs. You have 3 teams in the AFC North could make the playoffs if you believe in Baltimore. So I think the Bills are probably about a 9-7 team again, and if that gets them in the playoffs as a 6th seed, then more power to them. But I think it's going to take 10 wins in the AFC.
Brady Farkas, Zach Mai, in for Roger today on Big Board Sports 104.5 The Team and 104.5theteam.com. Matt, the NFL Hall of Fame inductions are this weekend. We're just coming off the Baseball Hall of Fame inductions. Now we get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame inductions. It's a loaded class, okay? Brett Favre, Kevin Green, Marvin Harrison, Orlando Pace, Ken Stabler, Tony Dungy's in that class. What's your thoughts on this class as a whole? Because this thing is loaded.
Well, I think it's a historic class from the standpoint. Tony Dungy, first African-American head coach to win a Super Bowl, and what a great accomplishment that was. He turned around the Buccaneers. People who are old enough to remember how awful the Buccaneers were before he got there for 20 years. I mean, He absolutely deserves to be there. Marvin Harrison, he was maybe the one receiver alongside Reggie Wayne who wasn't just the product of Peyton Manning, but really was a standout on his own. The one guy I'm really happy to see get in was Kevin Green. Was so underrated. He's third all time behind Reggie White and Bruce Smith in NFL side. People don't realize it because he played on 4 teams and he was never in the Super Bowl. He was in the 1, but he was in. The Steelers got beat pretty handily by Dallas in that game, and so I think people can't identify him with a certain team so he gets lost. But he's a great player. And then, of course, Favre is, one of the all-time NFL players. He's so iconic. So it's going to be a special weekend in Canton.
Matt, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Of all those players that Brady just named that are going into the Hall of Fame this weekend, if you could watch one of those guys for one more game in their prime, who would it be?
It's got to be Favre. It's got to be. You know what? Everybody talks in the NFL nowadays, you can't turn the ball over. You got to take care of the football. Well, Brett Favre didn't care about that. He threw more interceptions than anybody in the history of the sport, but he was so fun to watch, especially on a cold winter day in the Lambeau, in the snow. That is the epitome of football. And so if you gave me Brett Favre in 1996 with the Packers against the 49ers or the Cowboys, that was really, a golden age for the NFC and for the Packers as well. And watching Favre was such a treat. People get caught up in the media circus that he was at the end of his career, but he was 3-time MVP in 3 years consecutively. He was phenomenal.
Matt Verderame, fansided.com, NFL director with us on 104.5 The Team and 104.5theteam.com. Brady Farkas, Roger Weiland Brady Farkas and Zach Bai in for Roger Weiland today on Big Board Sports. And Zach, I think you nailed it right there. That Favre at the end became a media circus. But I think what people just continue to fail to realize is just what an Iron Man he was. 297 straight regular season starts, 321 straight starts when you include the playoffs. That is just, I don't think that's ever going to be broken in the NFL.
I don't believe it will be either. The NFL's changed the rules now, so quarterbacks don't get hit nearly as much. Even with that, it'll probably never be broken. People don't understand. He played with a broken thumb on his throwing hand in one game. He was an animal. And for all the people who never got to see him or didn't get to see him in his prime, he was never the kind of quarterback. Listen, with all due respect to Peyton Manning, if he even saw somebody breathing near him, he would go down. Favre was a caveman. I think that's what people loved about him so much, was he didn't play the game like a normal, average, run-of-the-mill quarterback. He was the epitome of a gunslinger. He's a tough guy. And to almost go 300 games without missing a game is just mind-boggling. Look at the NBA. There are guys that sit down because they're tired for a game. So it's truly amazing.
Matt, we'll get you out of here on this. Well, everyone always focuses on the skill players, running backs, wide receivers, and we always talk about the quarterbacks. And then you look at impact pass rushers. The guys that go often unnoticed are the guys on the offensive line. So, Matt, speak to Orlando Pace, because in this day and age, you're starting to again see just how important it is to have a great O-line with all these high-priced quarterbacks. You need that. Well, Orlando Pace was the number 1 pick in the draft who really kind of started that new wave offensive lineman in the mid-'90s.
Oh, for sure. Listen, everybody remembers the greatest show on turf, and they think of Warner and Falk and Bruce and Holt, and rightfully so. All those guys are perhaps Hall of Famers, great players. But without Orlando Pace, it doesn't happen. Pace was a mountain, like you said, first overall pick out of Ohio State, and he was a dominant player. He was a great run blocker, but for as big as he was, he had such great feet. He could move laterally. He could handle the speed rush. He was big enough to take the bull rush. Orlando Pace is somebody that gets forgotten because that offense was so great that nobody thinks about the offensive line. But that offensive line had to do so many multiple things because of Falk. The Rams, if you look back at the tape, they ran the screen game better than just about any team's ever done it. And you don't do that without a great offensive line. So Orlando Pace absolutely deserves to be a Hall of Famer. And I'm sure Kurt Warner would be more than happy to tell anybody about that.
Matt Verderame, NFL director, fansided.com, just absolutely nails on all things NFL. Matt, we're going to be talking to you many, many times throughout the NFL season, so enjoy the Hall of Fame weekend. I know you're a big Chiefs guy writing over there as well, so enjoy the signing of Nick Foles, and best of luck to your Chiefs as well.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, Matt Verderame.